What's up, guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of That Game Rules, another retro podcast. But hey, everyone's retro is different, isn't it? What's your retro like? We'll find out later. I'm your host, Scuba Steve. Thanks for listening to my terrible podcast, but I'm here for you. Every week we're going to pick a game. I'm just going to throw a dart at my video game collection, see what game it lands on. We're going to travel back in time. We're going to talk movies, shows, toys, cartoons, all the stuff that surrounded us back when we played these games. And then we're going to get into the game. We're talking vitals, box art, music in this game. We've got characters. We got helmets to talk about. Lots of power-ups and abilities today. Tons of levels. We'll check out some comments and reviews and a whole bunch of other stuff. And at the end of the show, we're going to give this game some shiny new awards that maybe it never got before. We'll kind of look at what this game might look like if it was made today. And we're going to determine once and for all if that game rules. Thanks again for listening. We are finally live with episodes. My goal is to have a new episode for you guys every Tuesday of our flagship show here. And then I'm hoping to get some bonus episodes, just some ranking episodes or some versus episodes or maybe some modern reviews. I'm hoping to get some guests in, or, you know, we can talk like top 10 Nintendo games, top 10 Game Boy games, or even like, you know, the 10 worst Game Boy games. And I'm excited to do all that stuff. So send me messages. Let me know what you guys want to talk about. Today we're talking Kid Chameleon for the Sega Genesis or Master System, depending on where you were playing. I don't want to call this game a hidden gem. This is a game I played when I was younger, and we'll take a look at everything that comes along with that game. If you liked the music that was playing at the top of this episode, then just put it on a loop and play it for like 3 hours in your head, because this game's music isn't much. But we'll get into the game in a little bit. If you want to get a hold of me and tell me games you want me to review for you, send me an email at thatgamerules@gmail.com. All your favorite games. Tell me the good games, the bad games. Tell me the games that suck, the games that you think rule. And if I haven't played it, I will, and we'll talk about it. Also, you can check out the website. I've got Kinda Developing Terribly at thatgamerules.com. I'm also starting to get at least some audio clips on YouTube. I'm not sure my channel name there yet. But I also have a Patreon just full of a bunch of free stuff, and hoping to get more. You know, I can post some bonus episodes there. And, you know, I try to keep this family friendly, but I'd love to go off on some bonus episodes. We can make those explicit, and I can just curse like a pirate for an hour. Other than that, all that stuff on Patreon's free. That's patreon.com/thatgamerules. And other than that, just get a hold of me. This is just for funsies for me. So just hoping to hear from you guys, get some feedback from any of you, and then maybe I'll get some listeners that aren't just my cats. Because when it comes to gaming input, they don't have much besides knocking my controllers off of my TV shelf upstairs. Other than that, before we get into the game, you know, what have I been up to? Got the Switch 2 going, so I've been playing some Mario Kart World with the kids. My son has downloaded like the update for Tears of the Kingdom. As far as on the Switch 2 now, he's looking to like get other people's build designs and stuff from Tears of the Kingdom. You can like import that directly through whatever weird phone system Nintendo has going now. But, you know, the Switch 2, they finally caught up with things like, you know, chat and things like that in games. I haven't tried out any other. I'm not like big online playing. But just like a quick note on that Switch 2 and the kids, like as far as keeping like couch co-op alive, like it's such a gap between when I was like 16 playing like, you know, the 64 with my friends, like 4 controllers all the time. There was always enough of us to play all. I mean, it was multiplayer. 64 was just kind of where it was at when I was like a teenager with my group of friends, between GoldenEye, Mario parties. We were big into Mario Golf, and then the couple of, 64 had the bangers as far as like the wrestling games, like WCW and stuff. So we'd play all of those. But it's great now just to have couch co-op still, just with the family. If you have one, get your kids to play games, because we'll get in between. Like I have, 4 kids, 2 sons, 2 daughters, and the wife as well. So we'll play 4-player matches of Mario Party with the wife and 2 kids, or I'll get 3 kids and I'll play with them. And it's nice to keep that going. And hopefully as the kids get older and move out, maybe we can do like some online playing too. But I've been playing a little bit of Kid Chameleon. It is on the Nintendo online subscription service for SEGA, if you have that. And I do have one of those wireless SEGA controllers, like the Batwing, as far as that Nintendo offered, which is still just weird to me, just the marriage of SEGA and Nintendo now. And I like the SEGA controller just as much as I liked NES and the Super Nintendo controller. It was it was crazy at the time just to add a third button to something like that. And then before you even got into like shoulder buttons and the Super Nintendo having X and Y and B and A. But I've been playing that. Other than that, it's, we're starting up summer here. So kids are out of school. If you happen to hear any banging, they're doing something upstairs and not leaving me alone like they should be. But we got Father's Day coming up. I'm hoping to smoke some meat or something and have the kids over, and it'll be a good time. So other than that, it's just work and games and keep it on going. Shout outs this week. The cats, they're over there. Where are you? They're somewhere. But again, we are live. So again, new episodes every week. And that's just my goal, to hopefully make it a couple of years. And, I don't do much editing. I don't like re-listen. So I don't know half the stuff I ramble about. I'm just putting it together, throwing it out into the ether of the internet and seeing what happens. Other than that, let's talk about this game. We're talking SEGA. We're talking 1992. And in order to get back to 1992, let's talk to Doc, let's talk to Marty, and let's get this time warp going.
Have enough road to get up to 88.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
All right, 1992. Where were you? Were you born yet? Were you in middle school? What grade were you in 1992? Because I want to talk about toys here in a minute. 1992, geez, I was 8. And I mean, that's probably prime toy time, isn't it? Let's talk a few movies around 92. And again, some of these I didn't see until later, but I'm going to throw some shout outs. Encino Man, I know I saw that back in the day, way before Samwise Gamgee was saving Frodo. He was helping thaw a caveman with Pauly Shore, way before Brendan Fraser was killing mummies and all that good stuff. I mean, that's a lot of these movies. I feel like between movies and games, and I guess TV shows to an extent, like it depends on what age you saw these things and whether or not they essentially mean anything to you. Because just like there's terrible games I play over and over again because I have them. I had them when I was a kid, and I just grew up. That's what you had, so you didn't have anyone to tell you this game was bad. You were just like, it was almost like when you saw like the Super Mario Brothers movie, the live action from back then, where I feel like most kids kind of left that theater like confused because they're like, I'm supposed to enjoy this, but where was it? I didn't. What happened? But anyway, so let's talk some more movies real quick. Beethoven, that was a family dog movie. They got a bunch of sequels I haven't seen in years, but it's like when I do these lists, whether or not they're even accurate to the years, because the internet's a weird place nowadays, but I'm like, as I'm reading them, I'm like, hey, I remember that, and I'm going to throw it in the list, and I'll give you some little member berries about it, and you can just say, I remember. Ladybugs, that was a movie that I don't know if it was super popular, but when I was younger, seeing that made me a Rodney Dangerfield fan for the future. And also had that one kid, I don't remember his name, but I think he died sadly at some point. He was like the kid from the old It TV series movie back then. And God, a couple other movies he was in. But anyway, we also had some more kid movies here. Fern Gully, if you remember that one. A lot of these kid movies were, there was a lot more, still adult themes back then with kid movies. But I mean, my favorite kid movie, you're talking 1992. We're talking this.
Aladdin.
Aladdin! Hello, Aladdin. Nice to have you on the show. Can we call you Al, or maybe just Din?
Man, did anybody else just wear out their VHS copy of Aladdin like I did? I love that movie. And also Home Alone 2 that year, which will also tie into my little toy section in a second there. That's a teaser for you. Home Alone 2 was good. It was essentially a repeat of Home Alone 1, but I liked it. I think I wore out that VHS as well. And while we're talking movies here, like I think last week I was talking about mom movies, movies you were just kind of stuck watching over and over because your mom watched them. I also got the same, I was over at my dad's house. I'd have dad movies, and it's so different between the two. So mom movies of the year, 1992, a big one that I still love to this day is Sister Act. So that's a Whoopi Goldberg movie where she's, I think, hiding from the mob and becomes a nun, hides. It's like, it's weird because it's like, that's not a kid's movie, but it's like between watching that, I think Whoopi Goldberg and like Ghost was on a lot when I was a kid, thanks to my mom. But dad movies of that year, it was the complete opposite, where I'm like, my dad would sit me down and we would watch these, what I love now is just like terrible kind of action movies. And that year was Under Siege with old Steven Seagal, who is probably just a well-known piece of crap nowadays. Look up some good Steven Seagal clips or, listen to some, I love Tom Segura's bit on Steven Seagal because he's a jerk. So I only wrote down, if we're going to move on to TV shows, I wrote down 2. And these were huge for me, and I hope huge for you guys as well. You had X-Men, the animated series, which was like crazy even back then with its just like racial tones and, like the World War II Holocaust type of stuff with Magneto and just kind of the racial tensions of the anti-mutant movements and all these things were just heavy themes for kid shows. But it just goes to show that you don't have to dumb things down for kids. You can show them these things. Some things might go over their heads, some things might stick, but you don't just need, you don't have to talk down, I don't think, to like kids. I think I saw a quote from someone, I believe it was the author of Coraline, when the book, and essentially said, like, who was it? It might have been Where the Wild Things Are. One of the authors was just said, like, they don't write books for kids. They just write books, and then kids happen to, latch onto them. So I agree. Besides even like my parenting now, I just feel like with media and stuff, internet aside, kids can handle probably a lot more than people think. So obviously that series was great. And I haven't finished watching like the new X-Men 97 on Disney Plus, but I know they brought back a bunch of the voice actors for that. Shout out to my favorite character from the show, Gambit. I was out in my yard with a broomstick, flinging that thing around, pretending either I'm Gambit or Donatello, just out in the yard. I remember collecting even like the cards back then, like trading cards. So they had X-Men trading cards. So a great show to grow up with, but even better in my opinion, and like the pinnacle of Batman is the Batman animated series from the 90s. And a lot of people will, if people are putting up the who's the best Batman argument, and I'll put Kevin Conroy at the top of that list anytime, especially even when you look at like the Arkham games, where he came back, and of course Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker as the Joker, and it was just, it was a great show, and again very dark themes, sometimes even like scary themes, scary episodes. But again, it's like they wrote that, they made that, and someone called it a kid's show, And, I watched it. It was on all the channels and stuff, but it's like, watch it now. It is still like a great show. And also play all 3 of those games, Arkham Asylum being my favorite. I just like that Batman kind of trapped, and then just all the villains and all the voices and all these connections to the TV show that are in those games. So awesome TV shows. So along with toys, we had, besides even the figures for then, I know I had a lot of like the X-Men figures, like from the cartoon show. Super shout out to Grape Escape board game. And you have to look up pictures. That one's hard to describe, but there were a couple games back then that involved like modeling clay or Play-Doh, and you would make kind of molds out of them. I think the other one was like Splat? Where I think you made bugs and you ended up squishing them. In this case, Grape Escape involved like Play-Doh and smushing, and I liked 3D games like that. I liked Mousetrap, which I don't know if it's changed throughout the years. I feel like you look at Mousetrap now, I feel like back then I felt like it was made out of like nails and aluminum, but it might still be the same setup as far as the maze they have for that. More shout outs, Creepy Crawlers was like a little toy set where you'd make like, they almost had like molds of like bugs, and you'd make little like sticky bugs. I don't remember if that was like Dr. Dreadful as far as Creepy Crawlers being edible. Maybe it was just you were making like gummy spiders and stuff. Also like Super Soakers, really big that year back. I don't know if they dumbed those things down either, but I swear you could like puncture skin back then with some of those Super Soakers. Also a weird like market for antique Super Soakers out there in like the toy markets. But calling back to Home Alone 2, I don't know, it was definitely on my Christmas wish list that year, was the Talk Boy, which was like a weird handheld, I think it was just the little cassette tapes and like a weird kind of extendable microphone thing. You'd hold it on your hand, almost like old video cameras back then. It wasn't that big. I mean, you can see it in the movies. It's what he uses. You could slow down or speed up the sound of the recording itself. So it's what he uses in the movies, I think, to make himself sound older. So that was definitely on my Christmas wish list. And when we're talking video games around 1992, Kid Chameleon, you had some competition. You had Sonic 2. You had Streets of Rage 2. 2 of the best Sega games on that system. Street Fighter 2. I mean, I'm not big into fighters, but it's like if you don't give Street Fighter 2 its props, I think there's still huge tournaments today with I think the original Street Fighter 2. And then a couple other great games. You had Super Mario Kart. That was like, I was nonstop on that, and specifically memories of that was like with my sister. We used to play that a lot, so I like those memories. Link to the Past being probably my favorite Zelda game. I'm still trying to get my son, he's about to be 14. I'm trying to get him to do a playthrough of that since he loves Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom so much. And then another shout out to Mario Land 2, the 6 golden coins on the Game Boy. Compared to Mario Land itself, it was great to have Mario on the go as far as Mario Land, but it was, go play that game now. You're like, what? You're in space, there's lions, and so, I mean, it was great to have, but compare that, and it's like the hardware kind of beginning of the hardware, end of the hardware, or at least as far as what they found they could do with the Game Boy. Look at the difference between Mario Land and Mario Land 2. And then I'd love to do that game, review Mario Land 2, because it has some unique levels. It has the Mario robot level where you're inside a giant Mario. It has like the Halloween level, you have ghost houses, but I liked the Halloween level and the Halloween themes in that one. So a lot of games you went up against Kid Chameleon, and we'll determine whether or not Kid Chameleon rules still. Again, because it's hard going back and playing it this time. I have some new opinions, and there were also things I didn't even know when I was a kid that you could do in the game, which involves kids reading. I mean, read your manuals, kids. When you get those games, read the manual, because there's no other way to know some of these moves and things that I didn't even realize at the time. And I used to, maybe I didn't have, I lost that manual, but I used some of the manuals. I'd read those things like comic books. I'd take them to school. I'd read them on the bus. I'd read them in the bathroom. You know, back then you're reading whatever you took in the bathroom, you're reading that, or you're reading like a shampoo bottle because you forgot to bring in a magazine. Pre-cell phone pooping, let me tell you. But anyway, let's get into this game. We're going to talk box art, and in this case, I like the PAL box art better than the US box art. So let's start taking a look at this game here. Let's rip it out of the package.
Now, I know you love video games, and I asked the clerk which is the one every boy wants.
You got me. Oh, yeah.
So specifically with this game, I have memories of like playing it with my stepdad. I say playing with loosely because it was more like watching him play. And it was an interesting life now to look back on, or as far as childhood when I was younger, living with my stepdad for a few years and my mom and my sister. But it was like dinner was over, you know, most dads or they'd go out to the garage and work in something, or they go out and do, but it was like dinner was over. My stepdad was in the basement and he was playing video games for hours. And I was just watching him just bright eyed. It also came, you know, for better or worse, when I got to play and he was around, then I got the feeling of a lot of those like football dads out there where they're, you know, they're grilling their kids to do this or that. So, you know, maybe a lot of my video game, either whether or not I'm good at them or not, came from that kind of oversight as you're playing as a kid. As you know, a lot of you probably didn't grow up with an adult kind of hanging over your shoulder telling you what to do or yelling at you because you're messing it up, essentially. So it'll beat you into being a good gamer. So as I was saying, I like the PAL art better. They're both the same. I mean, and this is good box art when you're talking box art. You got, I mean, he's coming right at you. You got your, you know, we'll call him the kid. He's got the leather jacket, the sunglasses, the sneakers, very Marty McFly looking again for this genre. And he's coming, you know, right out of the, almost coming out of the box, kind of busting out, kind of like a, you know, Ninja Turtles arcade, kind of busting out of the wall. He's kind of busting out on his skateboard. So the only difference why I like the PAL better is just the words Kid Chameleon. On the US, it's just like black and blue, I think, but the PAL has like these gradients to the letters almost, so it looks more like spray paint and it looks red. So I don't know why they would just make that kind of weird change, but they were making weird changes when it came to, you know, like PAL or Japan or North America. And I know I keep saying US a lot, but I mean North America. I don't want to forget about our Canadian brothers and sisters up there. Excuse me. I live in Michigan, so I'm, 30 minutes away from Canada. I've been there a bunch of times. I love you guys. You know, I know there's a lot of collectors, a lot of people playing up there too. So I appreciate you guys too. So box art looks great. It's got all your helmets you wear, all your costumes. So you've got the kid busting out. And then behind him, you've got, and it's like very accurate to how they look in the game, which is another good thing that your box art's kind of matching your game. You know, when you're searching for box art, kind of no different from all you have, you know, if you're searching through Netflix or even like, you know, Game Pass or something like that. It's almost the same as walking down Blockbuster. You're going to judge a lot based on just the one quick little grab you have. And, so again, all the helmets look sweet, and that was one of the reasons I like this game too. Helmets, as far as you grab a helmet and then you transform into a power-up type of creature. So box art looks good. You're gonna sell me on that. I found, you know, I have the manual, and I finally found like a bad translation. So I'll get to that in a minute. So, and I also found for like the startup part of the manual, when it's telling you how to like run the system, essentially, one of the troubleshoots is to make sure the TV is on the correct channel, 3 or 4. It's got to be 3 or 4. If you're too young to know what that means, like I ran into that a bunch. There were little switches in between being on channel 3 or 4. So that brought me back a little bit. I'm going to just read you the synopsis real quick, or the straight out of the manual. And it starts with, kidnapped. Wildside is the newest game in town. It's a hologram that creates a reality not our own. You step inside to play, and the door locks behind you. Nobody knows what goes on inside because nobody ever comes out. Kids are disappearing left and right. Heady Metal, the boss of the game, has escaped. He's capturing kids by defeating them at their own game. Soon nobody will be left to challenge the Dark Destroyer. But one kid appears on the scene and refuses to be beaten. He is the toughest, coolest head in town. He's Kid Chameleon. Take Kid Chameleon into Wildside and give Heady Metal and his gruesome underlings a taste of their own aspirin. Okay, because Kid Chameleon is about to cause a few headaches of his own. Like, I get it, but I'm like, is that, I don't know, was it supposed to be medicine? Give them a taste of their own medicine? I don't think I've ever heard anyone say, I'm going to give you a taste of your own aspirin. But anyway, I like finding, if I can, any sort of fun little translation losses. Control-wise with the game, the SEGA controller, you've got your D-pad, a start button, and you've got A, B, and C. And this is where things get kind of weird for me because I didn't know some of these controls. I mean, so it had your run essentially is A, your jump is B. You could do, your special would be C, depending on what helmet you were wearing. But some really interesting mechanic about this, I'll get into real quick, is the speed mechanic. So you can go in the game and you can either do it as normal. You have a D-pad and then you kind of hold down your run button to run, kind of like you do in Mario. Or you can change it in the options. It has an option for it. You can change it to fast action. And that's where the character runs just by pushing the D-pad. And you use A to slow him down to make him walk. So I thought that was like really interesting. And I didn't remember. I don't think I ever messed with that back then. I was pretty young when I played this. So it was more just playing the games you had to play them. And in this case, I probably didn't get past level like 10. I do remember getting to the first boss a couple times. But so anyway, I thought that was really cool with the speed aspect and the fact that you could switch it, and made me wonder what that would be like in like a Mario game or even Mario 3. Because I mean, number one, when you're playing like one of those old Nintendo games, like I've told my kids, it's like, no, you hold that B button, you never let it go. Like you're running the whole time, you're not making your jumps. But so I thought that was a cool mechanic. The other thing that I had no idea about is that, and you collect diamonds in the game, just like you would coins in Mario. But in this case, it was like I just thought they were points or whatever they were. But it actually activates like a special, depending on number one, what helmet you have, number two, what how many diamonds you have, because it'll do like a different power up move depending on how many diamonds you have. But I think the reason I never figured this out is that in order to use the diamond powers, you had to push A and you had to push start at the same time. And it's like, I don't think I ever played games where I was looking to use the start button for anything besides pausing the game. So I got to play around with that, I think, for the first time. Makes me wonder if my stepdad probably knew, because he was smart enough to know that stuff. But as a kid, I'm never pushing start for anything. And then, you got to do your math to figure out what games or, what moves are going to do what with what diamonds. But I thought that was pretty unique for an old game. And also, real quick side note, if I don't mention at the end, check out the end credits for this game, which I didn't beat to make it through, but I've watched in like a playthrough. It's also a big or a decent game that people like to speed run, is Kid Chameleon. But anyway, you can see the love that the developers made just in the end credits, because they made little like individual sprites for every developer. So I thought that was pretty cool. So the controls are, you can change your controls around. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward. And the way the game controls is, it's pretty decent for a 2D. Some people seem to have different opinions on that. But other than that, the music is about what you heard at the beginning. I've got one more clip. But other than that, it pretty much plays that thing on loop. So you might want to find yourself a podcast or some music to listen to when you're playing this game. It is repetitive. But speaking of that, I'm going to play us some of that music, and we're going to start talking here characters. We'll start talking gameplay. We'll go over some helmets. So let's hit it. right, just put that thing on repeat. Get it in your head over and over and over again. All right, we'll get into it here. So it is pretty, it's a 2D side scroller. In this case, the levels will start. So story-wise, you're trapped in a virtual reality type of thing. So each level kind of plays like a stage, almost like what was the name of like the X-Men kind of fake battle area they'd go into, so at the end of each level it kind of goes like Matrix on you and shows like you're actually in like virtual reality. So each level will start and then you're either going left to right. Sometimes levels are right to left, sometimes up to down to up. So all those kind of things. And you've got basic, you start out each level 3 minutes. You can collect little clocks that'll add time. You have hit points. You start out with 2 as the kid. And then depending, you get like 3 hit points when you transform. One of the helmets has 5 hit points. So you have those. Then you kind of have blocks you break. You can collect extra lives. You collect the diamonds instead of coins. So it's all pretty basic there. There's different blocks. Some, will give you a helmet. Some will give you diamonds. Some you can bounce on or off of. Some are like vanishing blocks that kind of come and disappear. And then like level wise, it's all kind of like, depending on where you are, you're kind of in like Earth kind of worlds. You're in like forests and these kind of like cities and things. But sometimes you end up in these real like hellscape looking levels with some really creepy looking sprites and stuff too. And half the time the enemies are just yelling at you to die and in that weird little SEGA voice graphic. So I thought, and the boss itself was just kind of a weird bald head looking guy, can be kind of creepy too. So it's weird that they can, how much detail you can get out of some of these sprites and stuff. This definitely feels like a SEGA game, with those kind of musics, the kind of rad, everyone's got to have sunglasses, and SEGA's just got to be the cooler kid. But it wasn't a bad try, I think, as far as the game goes. It's real challenging. There's obviously no like save points. There's no password system, which is kind of a low point as far as, I say just go ahead and save state the heck out of this game, especially if you're playing it on a Nintendo Online or something, just to make it through and kind of see. Again, I've talked before on some of these old games, they may have made them too tough. Number one, I don't think they wanted you to beat this game in a lot of the games in 1 or 2 nights. At that time, rentals were pretty big. They wanted you to keep going to the store and keep re-renting this game. So it was tough. Let's go over some of the moves, some of these helmets. You start out as the kid. His special power is he has like a flip he can do on edges to kind of pull himself up. So that's kind of the only thing he can do special. Other than that, he kind of jumps normal, and he's a decent looking sprite. But again, he just has the 2 hit points. I won't go over all the diamond powers, but they cost between like 20 diamonds, 50 diamonds. They'll do things like, kill any enemy it touches. You can release like a death snake that seeks out enemies and kills it. There's like invulnerability, there's disintegrating enemies. So it's all just kind of one of those like super mega power-ups you'd use if you were getting in a tough spot. So the helmets looked cool too when you pick them up. You do this little transformation, and all these characters are really unique. And we'll kind of go over in awards what some of the favorites might be. So you had the Iron Knight, and he was the one that you'd pick up his helmet and you'd get 5 hit points as opposed to your 2 or 3 on any of the other helmets. And also the helmets kind of work like, if you're low on health, you could pick up a helmet and you'll get those extra hit points, kind of whether or not you wanted that helmet. And to that point, it kind of plays the same way as like Castlevania with its weapons, as far as if you didn't want that helmet that you're going to land on and you can't help it, you're going to transform into that, kind of the same way you'd hit a weapon in Castlevania you didn't want, and there's kind of no turning back. And so Iron Knight, and then his kind of power, his special power, which would be like the C button, is like crawling up the wall and obstacles. He has like spiked gloves and boots, so he can scale cliffs and walls and columns and anything else. And then he can also like break some blocks, so he's kind of like big tough Iron Knight. And he kind of looks like the bounty hunter Leia dressed up as in like Return of the Jedi, which I always kind of like that mask / helmet. So he's pretty cool. Next up, we got Red Stealth. He is like your samurai helmet. And so, of course, his samurai power is like a sword. So he has a sword attack that you can also jump up and do downwards, kind of DuckTales style. Like old Scrooge and his cane. So you do like the down, or like Link. That's like the Smash Brother move, just up and down with your sword. And he also jumps higher than any of the other helmets. And so he can destroy blocks with his sword. And, they all look kind of cool. So he looks pretty cool. Next, you've got the Berserker. That helmet's like kind of like a skull with spikes, almost like a mohawk of spikes. And I think it's supposed to be like a rhino, because he starts kind of, his special power is like a charge. So he'll charge up and be able to like bust through walls. It's like a bull charge. You can kill certain enemies by running into them when he's in like a bull charge. And so that's where it's like, I don't think that has a button. I think he'll just start charging as you're running. So you kind of give yourself enough room to get up to speed if you're trying something. Next helmet was always weird to me, and it's what made me even like think of this game or remember this game is the character, the helmet called Maniacs. Axe, like a throwing axe. And it looks just like Jason from Friday the 13th. Like the mask itself is like a scary kind of hockey mask. And then you kind of, when you transform, you're wearing a hockey mask with like a kind of a ripped up shirt, kind of like Jason wears, I would suppose. And you throw axes, which is, so I mean, it's obviously based off of Jason from those movies. And yeah, so his special power is just throwing nonstop axes. So he was always fun too. Even when you're jumping, you can throw axes. Next helmet, and it kind of looks like a World War II soldier. It's got like a spiky point on the top, and that's kind of supposed to be like an army thing. He's called the Juggernaut, and it actually turns you into like a little tank. So the helmet, is kind of popping up through the tank, but you actually, encompass and become this kind of little tank. So you can get, you just fire skull bombs out of the front of your tank. So that's pretty self-explanatory. But I always like that guy too. You've got Micro Max, and he transforms, almost into just a tiny little fly, like a tiny little bug. So it shrinks him down so you can get into spots you couldn't reach as the kid or any other helmet. He also like sticks to walls. You can jump pretty high. Higher. You can't jump as high as like the samurai, but he gets into like the tiny areas, and yeah, you can like stick to walls. And again, as soon as you become these guys and then like get your 3 hit points and then end up dying, you'll go back to the kid with his 2 hit points until you find another helmet or beat the boss or whatever you're working on. Next helmet kind of looks like a Cyclops mask, like an X-Men Cyclops kind of thing, and he becomes Cyclops. And he also has almost like a Luigi's Mansion kind of vacuum looking gun, and that shoots a light beam, and it can reveal unseen blocks, or you can use your diamond powers to turn it into like an actual weapon. So it's almost like a revealing item, and then you can use it to kill enemies as well. Another helmet here, we got Sky Cutter, which just kind of looks like a helmet, like a bike helmet, and that puts you on like a sweet hoverboard. And then that plays kind of like some of the newer running games nowadays, where you flip upside down. So you're on a hoverboard, you're going across, and then you hit the button and you flip, and you're riding on the ceiling across, and then you hit the button again, and gravity shoots you back to the bottom. And that one was fun as a kid. Any sort of hoverboard, skateboard thing you're going to like if you're 10 years or under. And the last one here, last helmet is Cyclone, and that's almost like a Thor-looking helmet. It's got like the wings on the side, and it transforms you into essentially the Tasmanian Devil, except you can pretty much just fly. So you can go to any height and kind of stay there. You can, and then the bottom part as you're spinning kind of turns you into a tornado. You can use that to kind of drill through blocks and enemies. So that's called like a special power, is like a whirlwind. And so, yep, he can kind of fly, so he's fun too. And then again, I mean, like, block-wise, it's kind of your standard stuff. If it looks rubbery, you're going to bounce off it. If it looks icy, you're going to slide across it. The heavy metal ones are ones that you can't break. And then there's, like, the vanishing blocks that come and go. And throughout the levels, there's also telepads, little teleport type things, and sometimes they'll take you to a different part of a level, sometimes they'll take you to like a whole different level. And again, there's over 100 levels, and I think like 1,800 plus screens as far as teleporting or bonus levels, or a level will have multiple screens. So there's almost 2,000 essentially just kind of screens, if you can picture those. And it feels like it when you play this game. I've also seen this game kind of been referred to as the game nobody can beat. It doesn't help not having any sort of passwords. And I don't recall even my stepdad getting really far in this game. But there are a lot of speed runners out there now. And, even like the boss levels, there's not a lot. But they're not just kind of fighting a boss. They're kind of big, and they have kind of multiple helmets around, kind of multiple obstacles. So it's not just like it's not like a Mega Man, this is the helmet you want to use to beat this boss kind of thing. So I thought that was kind of neat as well, that you'd have to kind of play around to see what kind of weakness the bosses would have. And the boss itself is it's that heady metal, he's called. So all the boss fights are just kind of different phases of him. You have the first boss is called Shishka Boss, and that's just what you'd think. It's like 3 of his heads with like a arrow spike going through it, and it kind of floats around the screen, constantly spitting stuff out at you. So there's always stuff bouncing around the screen while he's yelling "die" at you over and over again. And the boss fights, yeah, they can be pretty tough. You had, I think, 4 total. There's one where he's like the heads are flying around. I think it's called boomerang bosses. And they're like spitting boomerangs out at you as they're flying around. And then there's one where you're kind of in a city. Same thing, you're kind of fighting the heads. But then the end one is just like one head with like 30 eyes, and you're in like the hell levels, and it's pretty creepy. Environment wise, like I said, with some of the enemies, the sprites, they can be pretty well detailed for as far as using the graphics they had at the time. And they had even what was one of it? I'll get into it with I'll tell now. So one of the sprites is like, it reminded me of like Zelda. It's like a hand that'll grab you. It's just like a green hand crawling around the ground. And I don't know if Zelda 1 and all the rest of them have just given me just anxiety about any sort of hand-type creatures as far as them grabbing me. But those are there, and they'll grab you. The levels again are kind of like, they're pretty standard as far as designs. Some are big, some are small, some are like pretty straightforward, and you're like right to the flag. Whereas some are like offer you a lot more option as far as exploring, and then that can become tricky because you've only got your 3 minutes there unless you find something else. So, in a nutshell, that I would recommend going out, playing some Kid Chameleon. I'd love to get into like live streaming and try battling this one. I'm all about rewind, save states, because I'm just all about playing the game however you want to play it. Sometimes it's more rewarding to finish a game as it's meant to be played. And then sometimes it's just like, I want to see this whole game, so I'm going to just kind of make my way through it with save states and those kind of things. Also, this is just one of those games that's 2 players in the terms of you just take turns. There's no actual like 2 players doing anything. But again, so that weird mechanic with the start button, it's like you're just so not used to, like, I was like using my index finger because you'd have to push A and start at the same time. So it's like, obviously I wouldn't even do that when I was a kid because I wouldn't even think of it. So we're going to get out of here. I mean, I don't have much more to say about this game because it is just level after level after level. But I am like I've got such a big spot in my heart for challenging 2D side scrollers, which was like a lot of these games back then. I mean, it started with Mario. They kind of mastered it as far as side scrolling, and you've got a lot of competition trying their own 2D versions of things. This isn't a Mario clone by any means, so I got to give them props to for like trying new things. Just like some of these comments I got here say, this is a very fun and challenging game and feels definitely Sega. It's a quirky platformer that takes risks and is loaded with fun. But then on the same game, we've got, this is a playable 2D platforming game with poor controls that had potential but just didn't quite live up to it. I've seen a lot of like, so it's all over the board as far as reviews and that either. And you can look at the dates of these reviews too and see, like, it's almost like the reviews get worse the longer like a game is out. This review says, this game steals ideas from Nintendo's finest, such as jumping on the heads of enemies and bashing item boxes from below. And it's like, yeah, but I mean, what else? Again, they took the Mario, had a couple of transformations and like turned it up to 11 as far as all these helmets they came up with. And again, watch those credits and you'll see these guys and these guys and gals that worked on this, and you can tell just by watching the credits that they put a lot of love into it. I wouldn't call it a Mario clone by any chance. I think it's a well-made platformer with an interesting premise, and try to make it into some of those later levels. And again, maybe turn on some other music. I've seen people say on the internet that it's underrated and that if Nintendo made it, it would be considered a classic. But the fact it was kind of coming out on Sega the same time as Sonic 2 and the games the kids were playing, and at the same time when developers were trying to figure out like the level of difficulty for video games in general, because they were all still new. And, where's that sweet spot? Nintendo kind of found it right off the bat, so everybody, I think, was just playing catch up with them. But let's give this game some awards, because it may have never gotten awards before, and let's talk a little bit about what this game might look like if it was made today.
Aren't you a little old for video games?
That man is playing Galaga. Thought we wouldn't notice, but we did.
Let's do all the things that you want to do.
Throw me a frickin' bone here. I'm the boss. Need the info.
I've lived in mortal terror that this would happen.
Get on with the ceremony.
All right, when we're talking awards, not to get super repetitive with a lot of these awards, but it's, if we want to do like a best level for every game, at least, we can just kind of make them up as we go. But I want to hear your guys' input. You guys can send me your own awards, make up your own awards, or if you get the newsletter eventually, check out the awards I'll do and give me your comments on those. So when we're talking this game, let's do award number 1. I'm going to go with the best looking costume. So having nothing else to do with anything, when I played this game, as a kid, you might go for the helmet that you liked the best because it looked the best because you were just a kid. And in this case, I like Cyclops. Cyclops is going to take it for me. He is the, thank you, Cyclops, play on words. Just because it was like bright, it was like a turquoisey kind of suit that kind of went good against the backgrounds, but he had that like laser gun, and again, almost like looked like the vacuum, because it's got the big cord going to his backpack type of thing, like a Luigi's Mansion ghost vacuum. But I don't know, I just liked it in it, maybe because at the same time he kind of looks like an X-Man superhero type thing, because that's what I was into back then as well. His special power was just revealing blocks, besides when you were using your diamond powers, so he wasn't really effective at all. But I like him. I think in a second place is going to probably be like Maniacs, and I don't remember like using him a lot. His axes throw, kind of like in an arc style, like up and over, so those can be harder to time on enemies as opposed to like a straightforward. But shout out to them for just taking a horror movie villain and just throwing him in a video game that wasn't the terrible Nintendo Friday the 13th game. So while we're talking helmets, next award is going to be the actual funnest helmet to play. Funnest is a word, I say so. And for me, it was Red Stealth. I'd go for him. That's the samurai guy. And because he just whips that sword so quick, like you can, like you feel these like slices. And then of course with I was the big DuckTales fan as well, so I was all about the jump up, strike down power as well. So congrats to Red Stealth. You're going to take it. Have some clapping. All right, good job. So final award is going to be the most terrifying monster. And again, go look at some of these sprites, because some of them look pretty sweet. They had kind of these dragons. And again, I was even a kid and young, but I knew I was like, I'm in hell when I'm like playing these under the kind of fire levels, because it's just skulls everywhere. It's cavern looking. It's like you're walking on piles of skulls. There's a dragon. There's like angry looking flame monsters. And again, the bosses themselves are really creepy. Like the heady boss, it was just something about a big giant disembodied head floating around. That just kind of freaked me out as a kid. But the award's going to those freaking hand things. Just like in Zelda. I hated them in Zelda. I hate them now. Don't grab me and take me to places I don't want to be. Weird hands. Disembodied hands, disembodied heads. Like, just grow a body and leave me alone. So, more clapping for you. Those are going to be our awards. Again, hoping to get some more info from you guys soon. Again, I'll post, what games are upcoming, so you guys can get comments on those. I'll read them all on air. I'll give you shout outs. I'll do all sorts of stuff. Not that stuff. It's not talking like a remake essentially, but like what would this game look like now? I mean, right off the bat, I don't know why, as I was playing like the samurai guy, I just kept thinking of Ghost of Tsushima. That third person Japan game that's awesome. And so I was thinking if they did something like this, it would have to be third person. Otherwise you wouldn't see your cool transformations if you were like a first person game. So I'm thinking like a third person over your shoulder, your typical kind of PlayStation game now, your God of War, your Tomb Raider, your Star Wars, something like that. And it'd be, or almost like it almost plays like a Mario Odyssey, where you can just kind of end up in kind of a hub level. And just like in Mario Odyssey, you get all these power-ups constantly that are, different depending on the level, or sometimes the power-ups work better. Sometimes the power-ups might be like detrimental to what you're trying to do, but you don't know until you play around with it a little bit. Other than that, I can't think of any. Like Mario Odyssey came to mind, but as far as like games where there's just a lot of essentially a single character that's changing or morphing a lot, to the extent that like the helmets in this game work, because they're so like drastically different for what they're doing. But even this game itself in its SEGA form with still all these levels, it's not just giving you one helmet per level. It's giving you tons of different helmets constantly to play the game in a variety of different ways. So, I mean, final verdict, like, does this game rule? Or am I just seeing through my nostalgia lenses? I think this game rules. I'd recommend giving it a go, especially since it's free. Well, if you have the Nintendo Online, and see, because there's lots of competition nowadays with new games and things. But these games that were made in the 80s and 90s, there's only so many of them. And I think this one slipped through a lot of cracks. But, man, if you're up for something challenging, you want to beat your head against the wall a little bit, I say give it a go. And other than that, we're going to wrap this baby up. What do we want to talk about next week? I know I talked about it last week, but I think next week we are going to do us some World of Warcraft. We've done Nintendo, we've done SEGA, we've done 64. We'll just keep it going. We'll throw a PC game in the mix. How does a game, how old is that game? Wow. How can a game be retro to me when I played it in like 2006, but also currently be out now in almost 2026? So specifically, I'm going to be talking World of Warcraft. I'm going to be talking from 2006 to 2010-ish, which incidentally, based on a lot of internet people, is the best time to play World of Warcraft. It was right when Wrath of the Lich King was about to drop, which a lot of people determined to be the best expansion in WoW. And I mean, that game's still out now. I did fire it up recently to see what it's like, and it's like going to a town you haven't been in 20 years to see what buildings aren't there and what buildings are. And they took that McDonald's down, and now there's a Starbucks over here. So there's a lot of weird feelings when I played World of Warcraft recently. It's about as social as I ever got in a game. Even now, I don't like talk online when I game, even if I'm playing like online. Another question I kind of have in my head a lot when I think about games. Again, we'll talk Warcraft next week. Let's talk about like the last game you can ever play. Let's talk about like a desert island game where you're stuck on like a desert island, and if someone says you can have this one video game essentially for the rest of your life, it's just this one, and it's like, what would you play? And I always get kind of mixed up because it's like right off the bat, it's like my head wants to just be like, oh, well, like Mario 3, if you're talking retro stuff. Then it's like I've played Mario 3 like so many times and I love it, but it's like, would I want that to be the only game I could play? Let's go back in time a little bit and let's just kind of talk episodes. And let's say, episode by episode, number 1, we did Mario 64. So I'd be happy with that on a desert island. And now let's say, you throw episode 2, you throw Secret Evermore at me. And you're like, okay, you have Mario 64. Do you want to trade it for Secret Evermore on my little abandoned desert island? And then issues become into play like replayability or exploration and these kind of things. So it's like, what would I pick between Mario 64 and Secret of Evermore? It's like I played Mario 64 a lot, and it's like I feel like you could get a lot more out of RPGs. I'm sure there's tons of stuff I haven't done and don't remember on Secret of Evermore, but then RPGs are so, you kind of throttle back, like that's it once you get everything as far as replayability. So Desert Island issue number 1, I'm going to keep Mario 64. If we're talking episode 3, now let's say Mario 64 versus Mega Man 2. Mega Man 2 is great and a great challenge and great replayability, but kind of a small game as far as having only one game for the rest of my life. So I'm going to stick with Mario 64 again. And it looks like Mario 64 is going to keep the cake over Kid Chameleon as well. So that's a weird question maybe I'll pose every now and again, as far as like you're alone on a desert island game. So definitely, it's hard to say a game rules versus, subjective versus objective. I'd say this is probably not a great game. Not great, it's good, but it rules for me. So I think you guys should try it out. And we're going to wrap this baby up. I want to thank anyone who's listening out there in the void. I appreciate any and all listeners, even just giving me a chance. I'm kind of doing these random kind of games that I remember specifically, but I feel like a lot of people didn't play. Number one, to get you to play them. And number two, because I'm just trying to get a little better at this before I start dropping Zelda shows and, the good Mario, Nintendo games and all those things. So I'm hoping to get a little better at that. But I appreciate any support from you guys of just hanging out and listening to my nonsense. So thatgamerules.com to sign up for the newsletter, get a preview. Patreon.com/thatgamerules for a bunch of free stuff right now. And again, I have no experience with any of this, but I do have episodes going live, so I got that far. Maybe videos eventually. Again, social media is real blah with me, but I might get into that eventually. I'd like to have some sort of library first. But other than that, hang with me, and I'll guarantee at least an episode a week, and we'll see where this thing goes. So thanks again, and we'll see you on the next one.